So what if we could take that into the thing that we're trying to manifest? And so I could either let you elaborate on that, but the question that I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure this has come up in your studies, what's your view on polarity? The reason why we have polarity and suffering, because I think it's an important part of having this stage and this dimension we're in. And if we move into the, people will call ascended 5D, ascended master, that kind of disappears. It's a different thing, and you can manifest instantly, but we're navigating that growth right now, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So I'm just curious if you could speak your thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure. The phrase, the wound is the gift, comes to mind. So a lot of people have a healing crisis. Western medicine fails them. They turn to Eastern medicine, spiritual healing, something like that. They learn it's real, and some of them study it more deeply. Some in turn choose to really research and practice, and then a fewer amount, like Barbara Brennan, choose to really pioneer. Brennan actually, I believe, was a NASA physicist, and I don't know if she had any major crises. And then from looking at subtle energies and really advanced stuff in reality and NASA, she's like, oh, energy healing is real. I'm going to start a school. And, now she's one of the most spiritually influential people in the world. So the purpose of polarity, we could say, light and dark, pain and suffering, and love and light and joy and happiness, is there's a stimulus and then a response. And stepping out of stimulus and response, stepping out of the whole karmic cycle, sure, we could say we want to do that. But, there's a great example. Earlier today, somebody in my life, I'll call him Joe. I was talking with Joe, and Joe got really nasty and started swearing at me and started threatening me. And it's just a normal, interesting scenario. I was saying, like, here's our agreements, and Joe didn't want to hold to those agreements. And it's very, very minor in terms of consequences. It's like $50 worth of consequences. It's not that huge. But Joe was sharing all this nasty energy. So when I was receiving it, I had an option. My option is I could have gotten hit by it, to use the martial arts analogy, and just like, oh, all this energy, and then being super reactive, like react and try to send that energy back. I could block it and, get hit somewhere and say, oh, I'm wounded that somebody doesn't respect me or care for me or send me love. Or I could dodge it and, ignore it, which is like saying, oh, he's immature or some other thing. Or using principles of Aikido, harmonize with it and switch spots so we see each other's perspective, offer love, offer compassion, step out of the typical reactive cause and effect, and use that stimulus as a reminder that there is always a choice to respond. And so whether we get hit by something, block something, dodge something, or harmonize, I think is dependent on the scenario. But looking at polarity, I feel that that gives us a choice to better ourselves or to evolve. This is you could see this in a really extreme case of forgiving somebody who murders your child. There's a lot of cases of that happening. And there was one time I remember growing up, I saw a movie. I saw two movies, and one of them, the parent who lost the child was in court, and there is the murderer there, and the parent was like vicious and intense, like you should be put in the chair, like really scornful and spiteful, wanted revenge. And was that deserved? Was it worthwhile? Was there an intention to murder? Just use an extreme example of polarity and suffering here. And then in movie B, the prisoner wanted to repent. The parent said, I forgive you. I know you're not that type of person anymore. I think, it would make sense for justice to be served, but I forgive you. And so we have that option, and every time that, even we feel pain without somebody coming at us, say you stub your toe, do you swear? Do you blame yourself? Or do you say, oh, this is a test of my enlightenment, a test of whatever. I'm going to choose to laugh, and then laugh as a reaction when I stub my toe, and I'm going to choose not to suffer. And I feel if we want to ascend and we feel like we're getting higher, we need to do what spiritual VC venture capitalist Joe Hudson says, is try to be triggered, and try in safe, generally controlled settings to be triggered in a safe way, whatever that means. Have somebody say something to you that hits a vulnerability, an old wound, and if you can sit there and take it, say somebody roasting you, but trying to go below the belt, and just hold laughter, loving, peacefulness, and detachment. Celebrities actually are good at this, or pretend to be. If you look at some of those like celebrities read mean tweets or laugh at each other or insult each other videos. Josh Brolin did this with Ryan Reynolds of Deadpool. Deadpool and Cable, they were insulting each other. It was so funny. You could tell they didn't actually mean it. So we have this harmonization as examples all over the place of, here's the stimulus coming in. Do we want to choose pain and suffering, or do we want to realize we can rest in joy and not choose to be hurt?
It's a really great answer. I definitely agree with all that. What it makes me think of is alchemy. And I'm curious your thoughts on alchemy. What I've heard is, we have that idea of like alchemy is like the chemistry alchemy of turning lead to gold. But another way that I heard it that I think makes more sense. I can't remember where it comes from. It is some sort of like mystery school. I don't know if it's the Templars or something, but basically it's like the process of taking that negative energy, right? We're in polarity, positive, negative. So someone says, hey, Matt, I love your podcast. Ooh, that feels good. That's positive. Hey, Matt, you're a huge loser. Your podcast sucks and everything about you is the worst. And I'm like, oh, darn. right to the feelings. And so I take that feeling of that pain and that catalyst and that negativity that I'm experiencing. And, from that higher level, it's not a good or bad. They just said something. I just identified with one. And one way that I've heard enlightenment before is that someone could give you a compliment or a put down and you remain the same. And the more I think about that, I believe it's pretty bang on. But when we're getting these catalysts in the world and you learn to alchemize it, you learn to Aikido it, you now have fuel, right? You're allowing that fuel to transform it, to bring you up, to bring you to a higher state. So you need that fuel to get you to that next level. So, if you're right at the beginning, you might be getting stuff all day. Just bam, 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 right? Giving you more fuel, more practice, and practice makes perfect. So I'm just curious if you wanted to either like elaborate on that idea or maybe what you've learned about like alchemy or anything like that. And if that's like similar to what you've learned.
There's so much. There's like 12 things. So I'll try to go
12, perfect. 12 things have come up.
Yeah.